Rain hammers the road as a poor black single mom grips the steering wheel, gas light blinking, phone buzzing with messages asking where she is. She's late to pick up her son, late enough that the one neighbor helping her might say no next time. Then she sees him, an old white man stumbling along the curb, soaked through, briefcase dragging, shoes slipping on wet pavement. Cars rush past like he's invisible. If she stops, she burns her last dollars in gas. If she stops, she risks her job, her childcare, everything holding her life together. She slows anyway. 1 second, one choice. She pulls over and unlocks the door. Get in. I'll take you home. He looks up, stunned. Rain dripping from a coat that doesn't belong on this street. What she doesn't know is that this stranger carries a secret powerful enough to change her life forever, and neither of them sees it coming. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The old sedan's engine coughed and sputtered in the pre-dawn darkness. Marissa Johnson turned the key again, her breath visible in the cold morning air. "Come on, baby," she whispered, patting the dashboard like an old friend. "Just one more day." In the back seat, 8-year-old Eli slept peacefully, curled up under his favorite navy blue hoodie. The streetlight caught his face, so innocent in sleep, and Marissa's heart squeezed. He deserved better than this. Better than watching his mama count pennies for gas. Better than falling asleep in a car before sunrise. The engine finally caught with a wheezing rattle. Marissa checked the gas gauge, the warning light burning bright orange against the dim dashboard. She'd have to choose between filling up the tank and buying groceries. Again. "Morning, sweet boy," she said softly, adjusting the rearview mirror to see Eli stirring. "Ready for another adventure?" Eli yawned and sat up, rubbing his eyes. "Can I have breakfast at Mrs. Green's?" "Sure can. She made her famous oatmeal yesterday." Marissa navigated through empty streets, the headlights cutting through lingering shadows. The truth was, Mrs. Green's oatmeal meant one less meal Marissa had to provide, one less worry about keeping food on the table. The eviction notice crinkled in her purse, a constant reminder of how close they were to the edge. She hadn't even opened it yet, couldn't bear to see the final warning in black and white. Mrs. Green was already awake, her porch light warming the darkness like a beacon. The elderly woman opened her door before they reached it, wrapped in a worn floral housecoat. "There's my boy," Mrs. Green said, opening her arms as Eli rushed to hug her. "And there's my hard-working girl." Her sharp eyes took in Marissa's exhaustion, the worry lines around her mouth. "I brought you some soup," Marissa said, pulling out a container from her bag. "Made it yesterday." "Child, you need to keep that for yourself," Mrs. Green protested, but accepted it anyway. She knew Marissa's pride, knew that giving made her feel less like she was just taking. "I'll be back by dinner," Marissa promised, kissing Eli's forehead. "Be good for Mrs. Green." "I'm always good," Eli said with a grin that made both women laugh. The office building was dark when Marissa arrived, joining the other cleaners filing in through the service entrance. She tied on her apron, filled her cart, and started her rounds. Empty cubicles stretched into shadow. Family photos and corporate motivational posters her only company. Sarah, a new girl barely 20, looked pale when Marissa passed her in the break room. "Forgot my lunch again," Sarah mumbled, embarrassed. Without a word, Marissa pulled an extra granola bar from her bag and left it on the table. She remembered being that young, that hungry, that ashamed. The morning shift bled into afternoon, fluorescent lights replacing dawn, as Marissa changed into her cashier uniform at the grocery store. Her feet already ached, but she managed a genuine smile for each customer. "Let me help you with those," she said to an elderly man struggling with his bags, even though her manager, Mr. Peterson, was watching with disapproval. "Customers can handle their own bags, Johnson," he called out as she returned. "That's not in your job description." Yes, sir, Marissa replied quietly. But the next time someone needed help, she gave it anyway. Her mama had raised her right. Kindness wasn't optional, even when it cost something. The afternoon grew heavy with clouds, darkness gathering early. As her shift ended, Marissa gripped her steering wheel. The leather cracked and worn smooth by years of prayers. "Please," she whispered, turning the key. "Just get us home." The engine turned over, and Marissa released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. One more day. They'd made it one more day. Dark clouds rolled overhead as Marissa pulled out of the grocery store parking lot. The first heavy drops hit her windshield like coins, making her jump. Within seconds, the sky opened up completely, turning the world into a gray blur of water and mist. "Not today," she muttered, flicking on her wipers. They squeaked across the glass, leaving streaky arcs that made it even harder to see. She'd meant to replace them months ago, but there was always something more urgent. Food, rent, Eli's growing feet needing new shoes. The fuel gauge needle wavered just above empty, making her stomach clench. She'd learned exactly how far she could stretch that last gallon, knew every gas station that would let her put in just a few dollars worth. But in this rain, with the engine working harder, every mile felt like a gamble. Traffic crawled through the downpour. Marissa leaned forward, squinting through the windshield. Water pooled at the intersections, and cars threw up sheets of spray as they passed. Her phone buzzed on the passenger seat, Mrs. Green's name lighting up the screen. Marissa's chest tightened. She was already running late, and Mrs. Green had been clear about needing to leave for her doctor's appointment. That's when she saw him, an elderly white man struggling along the sidewalk, one hand gripping a worn leather briefcase, the other braced against the wind. His suit, probably once crisp, hung heavy with rain. Each step seemed to cost him, his right leg dragging slightly. Marissa's fingers tightened on the steering wheel. She should keep driving. She needed to get to Eli. The gas tank was running on fumes. Mrs. Green was waiting. Every practical reason in the world said to drive past, just like all the other cars splashing by. The old man stumbled, his free hand shooting out to catch himself against a lamppost. His briefcase hit the wet sidewalk, papers spilling out to scatter in the wind and rain. "Lord have mercy," Marissa breathed. Before she could talk herself out of it, she hit her hazard lights and pulled over to the curb. Her window hummed as she lowered it, rain immediately spattering her face. "Sir," she called out. "Sir, please, get in. Let me take you home." The man looked up, water streaming down his lined face. He seemed to be weighing his options, pride warring with necessity. Another car roared past, sending a wave of dirty water over his shoes. "Please," Marissa said again, softer this time. "This rain isn't letting up." Her phone buzzed again, probably Mrs. Green wondering where she was. The gas gauge needle seemed to sink lower just sitting there. But Marissa kept her hand stretched toward the passenger door, remembering all the times she'd wished someone would stop for her when things were hard. The old man gathered his scattered papers with shaking hands, trying to stuff them back into his briefcase. Marissa put the car in park and grabbed her umbrella from the back seat. She stepped out into the downpour, hurrying to help him. "Here," she said, holding the umbrella over him as she knelt to rescue a soggy document from a puddle. "Let me help you with those." His hands were cold when they brushed against hers, accepting the wet paper. Up close, she could see how his shoulders trembled, whether from cold or exhaustion she couldn't tell. His suit might have been expensive once, but now it was as worn as her cashier's uniform, the edges frayed and thin. Finally, he nodded, something in his proud stance softening. "Thank you," he said quietly, his voice rough but cultured. "You're very kind." Marissa held the passenger door open, steadying him as he lowered himself into the seat. Water dripped from his clothes onto her cracked leather upholstery, and her ancient heater rattled to life, trying its best to push out warm air. The rain drummed against the car roof like angry fingers as Marissa navigated through the flooded streets. Her windshield wipers fought a losing battle against the downpour, and she had to lean forward to see clearly. Beside her, the old man shivered, his wet clothes leaving dark patches on her passenger seat. "I'm Henry," he said suddenly, his voice carrying an unexpected authority despite his bedraggled appearance. "Just Henry." He spoke with precise pronunciation, each word carefully chosen, as if he was used to people hanging on his every syllable. Marissa glanced at him, noting how his shoulders trembled. "Hold on a second," she said, reaching behind her seat while keeping one hand firmly on the wheel. Her fingers found the old gray sweatshirt she kept for emergencies. "Here," she offered. "It's not fancy, but it's warm and dry." Henry accepted the sweatshirt with slightly trembling hands. "You're very kind," he said, draping it over his shoulders like a blanket. "Most people wouldn't stop." "Most people should," Marissa replied, cranking up the temperamental heater. It wheezed in protest, but managed to push out slightly warmer air. "Where can I take you? What's your address?" Henry's brow furrowed. "It's near the old library. Or was it past it?" He stared out the rain-streaked window. "Take a right at the next light, I think. Or maybe—" His voice trailed off, and he shook his head. "I apologize. The streets look different in this weather." Marissa's concern deepened. She'd seen this kind of confusion before in some of her elderly customers at the store. The last thing she wanted was to drop him off somewhere random in this weather. She made a decision.